There's been a few head coaching hires. Finally, it seems like it's taking forever for the head coaching dominoes to finally start to fall. And we still have a few openings left. The Indianapolis Colts are going through a third evaluation session, whatever you want to call it, a third, I don't really know, third quarter of interviews and whatnot, a third interview process to figure out who they want as head coach. They can't seem to figure out. And then the Arizona Cardinals, and then news coming out as the time of recording this that not a lot of people want the Cardinals job based off the fact that you're going to be tied to the hip with Kyler Murray for the extent of his contract, and you don't know what his headspace is going to be like. But we do know there are a few hirings at the very least so far. And starting first and foremost, the most glaring one, the most obvious one that stands out, Sean Payton to the Denver Broncos. There's a lot of people who aren't the biggest fan of that move, of the Broncos trading I believe it was a first, a second, and a fourth round pick for a head coach and then paying him $20 million. So not only are you giving up the picks, you're then giving up that cap space to go out and get the head coach with Sean Payton. And there's arguments to be made. You look at Sean Payton's time with the New Orleans Saints, and there was a lot of underachieving there. A lot of times they could not get beyond just a divisional round, only with one Super Bowl appearance all the way back in 2006. They were, argument can be made, a pass interference call away from getting to the Super Bowl and would have played against the Patriots. But also an argument can be made, well, you had the ball in overtime, so go on and win it anyways. And I think it's a very fair argument to say that Sean Payton did underachieve, a little bit with the Saints, with Drew Brees, a top 10 quarterback of all time. He could never really figure out that defense for about like 5 years or so. They had one of the worst defenses in the entire league. And now he's going to be taking over the Denver Broncos job. And I think it was a must. I think the Denver Broncos could not afford to go soft. I don't think they could afford to go with another first-year head coach, somebody who doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs of being an NFL head coach. They had to go out and get somebody established. They've invested too much money, too much picks on Russell Wilson, and he's not going anywhere. They needed to bring in somebody who has the experience, who has won a Super Bowl before, and really can be one of the best coaches in the league, probably a top 10 coach in the league as soon as he comes back. I don't think there was any other option, maybe besides Harbaugh coming over from Michigan. Like one of the other head coaching hires we'll talk about, DeMeco Ryans with the Texans. I like DeMeco Ryans. I wouldn't hire him as the Broncos head coach. The defense is fine in Denver. I would never bring in a defensive-minded head coach into this situation that the Broncos have. The offense was the worst in the league, and the defense was arguably best in the league. Now they need to bring the offense into the fold because they have the personnel. Obviously, having their star running back go down early on in the season isn't ideal, but they still have a very good receiving core with Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, and now it's on Russell Wilson as to how much success this team will have. And I think bringing in Sean Payton, yeah, he gave up a lot for him, but this was the only solution really outside of bringing in Harbaugh over from Michigan. I love it for the Broncos because of what they had to give up for him. I'm not giving it an A. I'm going to give it a B. I don't believe necessarily, and before I move on, the talk that he was second or third choice. I believe the only reason he was second or third choice was because the amount they're going to have to give up, not because of who he is as a head coach. If he was a free agent, I believe he easily gets that job, first choice, and they barely even talk to other candidates. I think Sean Payton, great hire. Don't love the money, don't love the picks, but just the circumstance that they now have, I like it. Second hiring that followed very, very shortly afterwards, DeMeco Ryans to the Houston Texans. Most of the time, I preach, go get an offensive coach. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say go get an offensive coach because that's where the league is going. It's a quarterback head coach league. If those two are in tandem, we see with some defensive-minded head coaches how they've had not as much success as they probably should have. Looking at Josh Allen and Sean McDermott over with the Buffalo Bills, they have yet to get to a Super Bowl. Obviously, have yet to win a Super Bowl. Look at Mike Tomlin. He has the record of the amount of years he's made to the playoffs in a row. Not made the playoffs, years in a row with a winning record. Congratulations. What has that produced? Most of the time, I'm going to say go get your offensive coach. This situation, though, I'm perfectly okay with the Houston Texans going out and getting DeMeco Ryans, a defensive-minded coach, and I think this is a move, A to A+ move by the Houston Texans. Houston Texans are just one of those organizations that, you kind of laugh at, you kind of scoff at. Them, the Carolina Panthers, they're just not taken serious in the NFL. For the longest time, the Jacksonville Jaguars, now they have a serious coach and a serious quarterbacking. Like, okay, let's see what you guys can do. Houston Texans are just one of those franchises that how many Houston Texans fans have you met in your lifetime? They're not to be taken seriously. You know what you're getting from the Houston Texans outside of a short period with Deshaun Watson, the success they had there. However, the fact that he used to be a Houston Texan is huge for me because that shows he's going to bring in heart. He's going to demand excellence. He's going to get the best out of a talent drained situation that he possibly can be. And I hope for his sake, he's able to go out and get an offensive coordinator because that was the downfall of Brian Flores down in Miami. He was never able to figure out the offense, and ultimately the team decided to stick with Tua rather than sticking out with Flores. Flores actually would have been right if they just drafted Herbert, but it is what it is. DeMeco Ryans is going to be handed the keys to an organization that has fired two head coaches in 2 years. An organization that has not won a lot of games in the last 2 years and is very much disappointed. It's going to be difficult. He is going to be getting a rookie quarterback, and pairing a rookie quarterback with a first-year head coach, that can be scary. But for the team as a whole, I think this tremendously benefits the Houston Texans. Is going to bring them a strong defensive mentality to help build up the defense. And then while this rookie quarterback comes in, they already have Brandon Cooks. Hopefully John Mechie comes in and is able to produce and recover from the leukemia, I believe it is, and then add to the roster as well. I like this more for who DeMeco Ryans is, as well as the success we've seen with the 49ers. We'll see if he's able to build up the offense. That's going to be the biggest question mark, of course, but just as a straight up hire for who he is, I really like this. I'm going to give it an A. And the last hire that we've had so far is Frank Reich with the Carolina Panthers. And this is another hiring that I really like, and I think could have very good success. I think we could see a very similar momentum swing that we've seen with the Jacksonville Jaguars after they got Doug Peterson. I don't believe Frank Reich was at fault for what went wrong with the Carolina Panthers, with the Indianapolis Colts. I think Frank Reich was making the best out of a bad situation there with the Indianapolis Colts, and he kind of just took the blame. He kind of was the fall guy, as Jim Irsay is just very trigger happy, and he ended up getting fired. I think that he can come into the Carolina Panthers, similar to the Houston Texans, who I just talked about, and really change the culture and make this not back because they really only had limited success, but turn the tide around to bring them to some success. Excuse me. I really like what Jacksonville Jaguars did in their very first year with Doug Peterson, getting all the way to the division round of the playoffs. I don't expect that same success immediately with Frank Reich, but they do have an aggressive owner who was all in really in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes last season. Obviously doesn't get him, but now he gets his guy as head coach. That was the first domino to fall. And now we'll see how good Frank Reich is as a head coach. For the Panthers, I give this a B+ hiring. All the hiring so far I really like. It looks like Arizona's probably going to go with Brian Flores. We'll see what the Colts do. They don't seem like they know what they're doing. But all three hires so far, I'm a really big fan of, and I really expect success for these three teams coming forward.